Good evening, all of you. I hope all of you can see and hear me clearly. Right. So let's talk about how you can increase your score in BARC through the verbal ability section, the verbal ability area. That's what I would like to call it, which comprises parajumbles and para summary. So the focus today will be particularly on odd sentence out parajumbles. Right. So give me a hi so that I know you are here. All right. Okay. So, what are the skills that are being tested when you are given a parajumble question? Yes, who will tell me? What are the abilities that a parajumble question is testing? Okay. All right. So broadly, a parajumble question is testing your ability to understand, just like an RC passage. So these questions, some of the skills that are required for an RC passage are also required here. So when you prepare for an RC passage or when you prepare for a parajumble question, those things complement each other. Okay, you get that benefit of preparing for one, and in the process, you also automatically, indirectly prepare for the other as well. Okay, so comprehension is one skill that is required even for a parajumble question. Right, what is the other skill? The other skill that is required is organization, the ability to organize sentences into a coherent paragraph. Hello, Hina, Vilakanti, Pooja, hello, how are you all? So, conduct an experiment at home, right? Pick up a good magazine. Let's say you picked up the front line, okay, just as an example, or you can pick up the outlook also, okay. Let's say you picked up a magazine. Now read an article. Don't start from the beginning, read an article from the middle. Start reading it from the middle and see how much of that article you understand by starting from the middle. How much are you able to comprehend? Okay, so this will tell you how well you are, how well you understand things when, let's say, you do not have the complete picture. And are you able to still organize your ideas? Are you able to still make some sense, make some coherence out of what you are reading? Because it comes in very handy. See, in a parajumble question, you start with a sentence that would probably come in the middle, right? So you start from there and then you keep on reading in a jumbled order until you arrange them. So if you practice this at home, right? If you try this at home, you'll realize how good are you at organizing some jumbled thoughts, right? So this is one skill that is tested here, and the more you read, the better reader you are, the better you will be at organizing various sentences as well, because these sentences are essentially thoughts, ideas. So reading actually builds this ability also, right? That we are able to organize the thoughts of the author better because we are able to understand the thoughts of the author better, right? So the two are related. Okay. Good evening, Suraj. Brijesh, nothing has happened. We are beginning with the session. So, I think with odd sentence out parajumbles particularly, it's very important for us to understand how the examiner creates the questions, right? Because if we understand that, then we'll also find a way to actually eliminate and arrive at the odd sentence in the paragraph. So what I did is I have created two questions here and I'm going to show you those questions, and then I'll tell you what my thought process behind creating them was. Okay. So first, have a look at this question. I created this from Indian Express. Okay. So tell me, read this and tell me what according to you is the odd sentence out here. Yes. I need at least 5 responses. Then I'll tell you the correct answer. Which sentence does not belong to the paragraph? Hmm. So, Hina, what do you think? Let's see what you say. Bilakanti, what do you think? Okay, Priya says 4 is the odd one out. All right. Brijesh also says 4. All right. Others? 4. Hina also says 4. Two more responses. Then I'll tell you the answer. Ankit also says 4. Samriddhi also says 4. All right. So there is a unanimous opinion here that 4 is the odd sentence out, and I absolutely understand why you're saying 4. I think your thought process is Dilip Kumar is mentioned here, Dilip is mentioned here, and even in the last sentence, but Dilip Kumar is not mentioned in the fourth sentence, so it must be the odd one out. So this is a very simplistic approach to a parajumble. Now, while it might work in some cases, this is if let's say the examiner had to make this simple a question. I'm not saying this simple a question cannot appear. Then, I don't think you will get this simple a question. See, you have to, in CAT parajumbles particularly, you can't go by just one word or two, reading just one word or two, and then solving the parajumble. You have to understand. See, the first skill that I mentioned was comprehension, isn't it? So the first skill is comprehension. So you have to read and understand the sentences, right? You may not understand each and every word, which is absolutely fine, but a broad understanding of the theme of the discussion is required. So this is actually related. Now see, here you ignored something. Our young aunts cut out filmfare covers on which the big three, Dilip, Devanand and Raj Kapoor, appeared and reappeared. Right? On the few occasions they allowed us to accompany them to movie theaters. Who are this they? The young aunts. We are here through 2 and 4 trying to talk about the fan following that Dilip Kumar had. That, the people, our young aunts used to cut out their pictures. Then they used to sob so much as they watched his movie. So 2 and 4 talk about that fan following. They actually belong to this paragraph. Right. Now, in first, I talk about the 1950s. That why was Dilip Kumar needed in the 1950s, right? I now realize that perhaps similar forces that had led Emily Bronte to create a Heathcliff in Wuthering Heights, restrictive Indian society of the 1950s, where love was a four-lettered word, had willed Hindi films to throw up a brooding, intense, and tragic hero like Dilip Kumar. So we are talking about the that how was he so popular, right? What contributed to his popularity in the 1950s. This is the discussion happening here. Now that you've eliminated 2 and 4, okay, that in let's say now you've understood that 2 and 4 probably belong. So out of 3 and 5, which is more unrelated to 1? Out of 1, out of sorry, this 3 and 5, which is more unrelated to 1? Tell me. Pooja, we have to find that one sentence that does not belong to this paragraph. So this is a jumbled paragraph. You have to tell me that there is this one sentence there which does not belong to it. You just have to give me that number, that sentence number. Yes, tell me which is more unrelated to 1, 3 or 5. That will be the odd sentence out. 5. Very good, Bilakanti. See, 5 is the odd one out here because 3 is relating this discussion with the 1950s, isn't it? Dilip Kumar, of course, became a megastar in the 1950s. So, why? Why? Because of all these reasons. Now, this is a sort of a concluding sentence, or it's a sort of an opening sentence that would be either at the beginning or at the end of the article. So, what did I do when I was creating this question? I picked up one sentence from the beginning of the article, then I picked up a middle paragraph, right? So, while your odd sentences will not be completely unrelated, this is of course not completely unrelated, they will not belong to the immediate discussion that is happening. They will be out of range, out of that range. The current range of discussion is how is he a mega star? How was he a mega star? Why was he a mega star? And we are discussing his stardom, Dilip Kumar stardom here, right? So these two are related. Similarly, these two are related, but this one does not belong to the immediate discussion, and that is why it's the odd one out. So you see my thought process. Choose something that belongs to that article but not to that paragraph, right? Okay, so I hope you've learned something important here. Now I picked up this one. I took an again took an article, took a paragraph from eon.co, right? And I made this. So read it, understand the sentences well, and then tell me which one does not belong. Okay? Yes, start. Okay, I've got one response. Let's see what the others say. Hmm. Okay, Ankit also says two. Try to follow a similar approach, the approach that I followed earlier. I'll break down this approach for you in the coming slides, what actually I do. Okay, two, one, one. All right. So, Bilakant, you've changed your answer, is it? Okay, one more response, then I'll tell you the answer. Okay, so I've got two twos and three ones. Let's have a look what the answer should be. See this. Shoppers everywhere can choose among merchandise in unprecedented variety. Okay, so we are talking about shoppers everywhere choosing among goods in unprecedented variety, a lot of variety. Okay, piled high on the decks of vast ocean going ships and stacked deep in their holds. These simple steel boxes emblemize an era in which massive quantities of stuff move around the world at negligible cost. So, what do these, simple steel boxes that hold a lot of goods, what do they symbolize? They symbolize a time in which, massive quantities of goods and goods actually they're moving around the world at negligible cost. The cost is also not much, right? Moving around the world everywhere, right? So I'm showing you some connections here. 3 says more than 5,000 container ships sail the ocean today and they are in no danger of vanishing from the scene. So it talks about the quantity of these container ships that are sailing the ocean today. 4. Whether they lace up, whether they, see, pay attention to these grammar based clues. These are what? Grammar based clues. So for instance, these simple steel boxes, that means probably I have talked about these steel boxes earlier. Yes. Whether they lace up, somebody is tying their laces, whether they lace up Indonesian made running shoes rather than footwear imported from India. The cost of transporting the goods over thousands of miles barely figures into consumers. So they are consumers here. Into consumers' decisions about what to buy. Do you see that 2 and 4 are related? 2 and 4 are related, yes? So good. Those who earlier said 2 then changed their answer. Because here I am talking about goods moving around the world at negligible cost, and here again I am talking about the fact that a cost barely figures into consumers' decisions about what to buy. That means it's not much. So 2 and 4 are eliminated. Okay. Fifth, if globalization were to have a meme, okay, if globalization were to have a meme, the maritime shipping container would be a likely choice. So I am happy that nobody said 5 because 5 is the crux of this paragraph. It is the introductory sentence of this paragraph. It is telling me what is going to be discussed. These maritime shipping containers holding a lot of goods, they actually symbolize globalization because goods are moving across the world in them, right? So 5 is also eliminated. So now either 1 is the odd sentence out or 3 is the odd sentence out. Now think again and tell me, is it 1, is it 3? Yes. What do you think? Which is more unrelated? Is 3 more unrelated or 4 more unrelated with 1? It is actually 4. Okay, so Brijesh, sorry. It's 3. Okay, it's 3 that is more unrelated. So 3 is the odd sentence out here because 4 is actually an example of 1. 4 is giving an example of 1. Shoppers everywhere can choose among goods in unprecedented variety. Whether they lace up, so they here are shoppers, whether they lace up Indonesian made running shoes rather than footwear imported from India. So I am talking to you about how they can choose goods from everywhere in unprecedented variety. Okay, so it is 3, which is just talking about how many containers are sailing across the ocean. This is unrelated. And always remember again, the odd sentence out is highly unlikely to be completely unrelated to the paragraph. Because if that happens, then the question will become very easy for you. It will most likely belong to the article but not belong to the paragraph, right? So it will not be related to the range of discussion happening. I hope this makes sense to you, right? And here, this was a theme-based clue. 1 and 4. 4 is serving as an example of what is mentioned in 2 and 1. In 2, we talk about cost. In 1, we talk about variety. So this gives an example of variety, Indonesian, Indian, and this gives in a way talks about the cost, right? So grammar based clues can help you and theme based clues can also help you. So this is just me giving you a broad outline of how the examiner thinks. Now how can you ace these questions? We'll discuss that, right? So first of all, why did I pick up this topic for today? Because we do have sequence parajumbles also where you have to make an entire sequence. However, that is a lengthier process because you have to, if let's say there are 4 sentences and the sequence is 4 to 1, 3, then you have to identify 3 pairs and then arrange them, right? So that's a lengthier process. In an odd sentence or parajumble, you just have to find out that one sentence that does not belong. That's it. So this is how it's something that you can do more quickly as compared to a sequence parajumble category parable, other things remaining constant, okay? Because there can be other variables also. Sometimes the sequence parajumbles can be easy. So those situations can be there, but I'm saying, I'm talking about a general scenario. Okay? You are relating 5 and 3 more. Yes, yes. So Abbas, sorry. Uh, Brijesh, I saw that most of you said 3 is related to 1. But this is what I'm trying to show you, that what we are doing is we are just looking at the surface here. You have to really understand the sentence. So that's why I encircle these things everywhere: unprecedented variety, negligible cost. 4 covers all these 3 things. Whereas 3 is just talking about how many containers are sailing across the ocean. Right? So it's not related to the immediate discussion. Okay? So we might relate some other sentence, but we have to see what is thematically, grammatically, and logically the most related. That's how we eliminate. Okay? All right. So yes, I was telling you that these are something. This is something that you can do relatively more quickly. You don't need to make an entire sequence. You just have to identify the odd sentence out. So, for instance, let's say if I were given 5 sentences, I don't care what the sequence of these are going to be. If I'm able to identify this, okay, 2 4 is a pair, 5 1 is a pair, so 3 is the odd sentence. Now my job is done, right? And the good thing is they do not have any negative marking, so no negative marking for these questions. That makes them very lucrative in CAT. All right. So let's look at another example here. This is just my trying to show you that you don't need to worry about the entire sequence when attempting an odd sentence out parajumble. Yes, again, read the sentences, understand, relate, and then eliminate, because you will see that, okay, on your first reading everything will appear related, but there is a pattern here. There is one clear cut odd sentence out. Yes, tell me. Okay. So I've got one response. Brijesh says 4. Others, what do you say? Yes, quick, quick. Some more responses I need. I find these questions to be very interesting. Okay. Vilakanti also says 4. Others? Hina also says 4. All right. Absolutely correct. All of you are absolutely correct. 4 is the odd sentence out here. And now see, you've started to think that way. Okay. You are thinking that way. So I think Correct me if I'm wrong. I think your thought process would have gone like this. You are relating exercise to brain, basically. We are relating the physical aspect to the mental aspect in a way, the neurological aspect, right? Exercise to brain. Similarly, signs of the body's influence on the mind related. Then, it turns out that moving our muscles, so again, exercising, it actually releases proteins in, through the bloodstream and into the brain. Again, the mind body relationship is present. And even here, this one is very strongly related to this one. Neuroscientists have just begun. It's only in the past few years that neuroscientists have begun to describe these factors and how they work, and each new discovery adds awe-inspiring depth to the picture. So, have just begun this, and it's only in the past few years, again, they seem related. This is just about movement, okay? It's not relating it to brain. The brain aspect is missing here, isn't it? So that is why fourth is the odd sentence out here. I hope this is clear. 3 belongs to this because again it's talking about the mind body relationship. It turns out that moving our muscles produces proteins that travel through the bloodstream and into the brain, where they play pivotal roles in the mechanisms of our highest thought processes. Okay, so we have found the signs of the body's influence on the mind, right? All right, so this was an example here. Now let's look at this question. Through this, I'll try to show you how to spot various theme-based clues, various grammar-based clues, right? So look at it. Form pairs. Okay, form pairs. Form mandatory pairs. What are mandatory pairs? Two sentences that absolutely belong together, right? For instance, here I was doing this only, no? I told you that, okay, 1 and 4, they belong together. So it's a pair and I eliminated it. So that way form pair, okay, sorry, form pairs and you will sail through this. Let's see what you all say. I agree with Brijesh Harsh. You don't really need to practice 11th, 12th maths when it comes to CAT. ZAT sometimes asks higher order maths. So there you require 11th and 12th wala math. Bilakanti has answered. Others? Hina has also answered. Yes, some more responses. So it is working. What I'm telling you is working. Try it. See. So here, the ones in blue, the ones highlighted in blue are your theme-based clues. Okay, the blue ones. So the Commonwealth Bank logo, right? And here I have the Combank logo. Yes. So the Commonwealth Bank logo is so recognizable that the bank doesn't even use its full name in its advertising. So right here I'm saying that the bank is not even using its full name. So see, here only I have shortened it, the Combank logo. Again, Other theme-based clues, see, I use hidden shapes here. Here I use cryptic references. Solve the riddle, cryptic references, hidden message. So these repetitions in different words, they are nothing but theme-based clues for you. That okay, thematically perhaps 3 and 4 are related. Okay, so I've got 4 ones, very good. Uh, Okay, 5 ones in fact. Very good. One is the odd sentence out. I'm so happy you made mandatory pairs. Okay, so 2 and 5 is a mandatory pair, 3 and 4 is a mandatory pair, right? And what we are left with? One. So that is the odd sentence out. Also, one more thing, see grammar based clues. Those geometric symbols, when I say those geometric symbols, I should have talked about some geometric symbols earlier, then only I can say those geometric symbols. But look at the other sentences. Do you see the word symbols? Yes. Do you see the word symbols anywhere? No. So there is no precedent. In grammar we call it antecedent. There is no antecedent for this those, right? No reason for me to use this those. Odd sentence out. Okay. And why have I underlined or highlighted this? Because this shows that I am now expanding the discussion. Okay, logo, I talked about logo, and now I'm saying not just logos. Sometimes brands will have meaning. So now I'm expanding this discussion from logos to brands. That is why I highlighted this to show you that. This but, now see, there is a contradiction of sorts here, a contrast actually, not contradiction. But the Combank logo has more to it than meets the eye. It has more to it than meets the eye. Again, I am expanding the discussion. I am saying that it has something hidden, perhaps more to it than meets the eye. So again, it matches with this hidden and cryptic. So a paragraph holds clues for you, okay? And you have to identify these clues, particularly to attempt parajumbles questions. Apart from, of course, understanding the sentences, ये सब जो भी ये clues हैं, ये identify करना is important. Okay. Hope this is clear. This is again a CAT past year question. Now, if you've been enjoying the session so far, then please press the like button. I just saw in the chat box that nobody's liked it yet for some reason, right? And do comment any queries that you might get later on, right? I'll be happy to solve them. Share this with your friends, those who are preparing for CAT 2022. And for more such sessions, of course, you will have to subscribe to the channel, right? So, how to attempt these questions faster? Let's talk about that. First of all, understanding the theme and range, there is no substitute to it. You have to do it, right? What is the broad topic, right? What is the main idea? And what is the scope, the range in which this discussion is happening, right? For instance, uh, if I talk about a social issue like, let's say, human trafficking. Yes. So there are so many aspects to it. There is a social aspect, there is a legal aspect. There is again, if I have to go into its history, there is a historical aspect to it. So what is, when I write a paragraph related to human trafficking, what is my range? Historical, social, legal, political. From what angle am I writing it? So that is the range. Narrowing down that is important. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at this question. Okay, sports enthusiasts, I'm expecting you to get this correct. Let's see if you are again able to identify the theme, the range, then you will get this correct. Yes. Okay, Pritish, you're talking about a grammar session. Actually, I have taken it in the past. So if you go to, there's a playlist for every faculty member. So there's a playlist with my name also. You will find a session on verbs and tenses there. Okay, it was an MHCET session. I took it for MHCET exam last year, but it's still available. Okay. Let's see what you say. Okay. Okay. There is a thread that runs through four of these sentences. And of course, there are grammar based clues here and there. Let's see what the others say. Yes. Three more responses I need, at least three more. That will tell me you are active and alert and awake. There's no negative marking here in the exam, so please don't hesitate. Give me a response. Okay. Two more responses. All right. One more to go. Okay, so I've got a lot of twos here. Now, I'm talking about Federer. Fine. Roger Federer. So, see some clues. First of all, some grammar-based clues. Let's look at them because they are sometimes easier and also they are very reliable clues. So, Roger Federer, full name. I mentioned full name here, whereas here I just mentioned his surname, Federer. Okay, so full name, surname, all right. Then, given that his method, okay, a similar impression. So if you are saying that two is the odd sentence out, right? So over the past fortnight, one of its finest champions, kiska finest champions? Whose finest champions? Its finest champions. We are talking about a tournament, isn't it? Which tournament am I talking about? Yes, it's not mentioned in any of the other sentences except two. So how can two be the odd one out? Yes. So 2 is not the odd one out here. In fact, 2 and 1 form a pair. 2 and 1 form a pair. See how? Wimbledon's greatest illusion is the sense of timelessness that it evokes. It's as if it's evergreen, it's timeless. Over the past fortnight, one of its finest champions managed to pull off a similar impression. A similar impression means an impression of timelessness, an impression of being evergreen, being timeless. Now, who is this one of its finest champions? Roger Federer. So, this comes immediately after one. At 35 years and 342 days, Roger Federer became the oldest man to win the singles title in the Open era, a full 14 years after he first claimed the title as a scruffy, ponytailed upstart. So I'm saying that okay, Wimbledon appears to be timeless, evergreen. So one of its champions actually pulled off this similar impression that okay, it's timeless because he won it again a full 14 years after he first won it. So see, evergreen, timeless. So I told you there's an underlying thread that is running through this paragraph. So that thread is of timelessness only. So now between 4 and 5, tell me which one is more unrelated? Between 4 and 5, which is more unrelated? A virtual toffee to the student who identifies it correctly. Okay. Others. Otherwise, Brijesh will get the toffee. So, absolutely correct. 4 is the odd one out here. This is more unrelated to the discussion because, again, 5 says given that his method is not reliant on explosive athleticism and muscular ball striking, both vulnerable to decay, both actually degrade, decompose, or basically diminish after a while. There is cause to believe that Federer will continue to enchant for a while longer. Again, timelessness, the evergreen nature, that is again highlighted here. This is talking about the opening week. This is going into the details of Wimbledon. That was not the purpose of this paragraph to go into the details of the match. Not at all. The purpose was to talk about this timelessness, right? So pay careful attention. Very good. All of you are correct. 4 is the odd one out, right? Okay. So tip two is don't be worried about the entire sequence. See, sometimes naturally an entire sequence will form if it's an easy question. Sometimes, however, while you will identify pairs, you'll perhaps not find the entire sequence and you don't need to, right? So just be worried about making pairs and eliminating. So what I do is in these questions, my focus is to make at least two pairs. Okay, to make at least two pairs. So why is that my focus? Because that will help me in eliminating at least three sentences. Then I'm left with just two sentences. And between that, then I decide. Just like I'm making you decide no towards the end, okay, between these which is more unrelated. That's how I decide in the exam also. Right? So either find out at least two pairs, or if let's say you can see very clearly that okay, this is the opening sentence. Right? Then find opening sentence and then one mandatory pair. The point is that I have to eliminate three sentences and then decide between two. Okay, opening or closing, whichever it is. All right, so let's see this question now. I want you to focus. I want you to see there are words here that have been repeated in different words, right? Phrases repeated in different words. There are connections. Spot them and eliminate. Then eliminate. Okay, yes. Let's see. The sixth question. Uh, Continue to enchant was the hint. Correct, Brijesh. Explain 1 and 2. Okay, just for a second, we are going back. We are going back to 1 and 2. 1 and 2, why they are related? See, we are saying that Wimbledon is timeless. Wimbledon evokes a sense of timelessness. Now, over the past fortnight, right, over the past 15 days, one of its finest champions, Wimbledon's finest champions, has actually given us this impression, this very similar impression that Wimbledon is timeless. That's why it is a mandatory pair, right? Hope this is clear now. All right. Example 6. Let's see what you say. Brijesh says 1. Mamta also says 1. Others. Sanvi says 2. Srish says 4. Yes, one more response. I need one more response, then I'll tell you the answer. Hina says 1. Good. Brijesh, Mamta, Hina, you are correct. 1 is the odd sentence out. Okay. Now, why is it the odd sentence out and why not 2 and 4? Let's see that. So, most of the planets remaining water. So, nobody said 3 and 5. Still, I'm making connections here. The planets remaining water. What are we talking about? We're talking about Mars, right? So, also 5 belongs a recent study because it's in fact it's the topic sentence, right? It is telling us what the discussion is going to be about. A recent study reveals how Mars lost much of its early water, while another indicates that some liquid water remains. So this study, one study told us that how it lost much of its water, and the other told us that some liquid water remains. Now, 4 is actually telling us that data, it's talking about one of these studies. Data from NASA's Maven orbiter shows that solar storms stripped away most of Mars's once thick atmosphere. So this is telling me about this part, how it lost the water, right? Through what? Solar storms. What did they do? They stripped away its air, its atmosphere, right? So, in continuation with this discussion, isn't 2 continuing this discussion? Why? Because I am talking about the fact particles from the sun collided with the molecules in the atmosphere. Now, see, particles from the sun, solar, collided with the molecules in the atmosphere. So, this is a solar storm only, no, that has been described here. And atmosphere, we mentioned that they stripped away the atmosphere. So they collided with molecules in the atmosphere, knocking them into space or giving them an electric charge that caused them to be swept away by the solar wind. So this is a description of a solar storm attacking the atmosphere of Mars. So this belongs. Okay. Now here, so here 1 is the odd sentence because 1 is also talking about water being lost. But from where? That made up ancient lakes and perhaps an ocean. The water was not lost from the oceans and lakes, it was lost from the atmosphere. Okay, so it was lost from the atmosphere, from the air. So that is why this one does not fit. 3 fits because it is now talking about the other study. Most of the planet's remaining water is now frozen or buried. But clues over the past decade suggested that some liquid water, it remains, right? So this matches with 5 again, some liquid water remains. So that's why 3 belongs, 1 doesn't. Hope this is clear to everybody. Good. Happy that quite a few of you said 1. Right. So this is how you attempt these questions. You get better at attempting them once you practice a number of questions. There's an inflection point to it. There is a skill building process to it. Right. Okay. So last is yes. This again, I have already given you most of the tips in advance, right? Make 1 or 2 mandatory pairs to eliminate. Make use of grammar-based clues. Now, should I rely exclusively on opening closing sentence? No. I shouldn't first hunt for an opening sentence the moment I encounter a paragraph. See, if I find it, if you are reading it and you feel okay, this is the opening sentence, very good. If you are reading, you feel that this is the closing sentence, you have a strong hunch, very good. Otherwise, don't be stubborn or bent on finding the opening or closing sentence because sometimes it might not be very obvious and you might end up wasting your time. Okay, so just focus on this mandatory pairs. If you find it, bonus. If you don't, fine. Okay. All right, then let's have a look at this question now. So again, make pairs, eliminate, follow everything that I've told you till now, and you will get it right. Let's see what you say. Okay. Others. What do the others say? Okay. All right. At least three more responses before I answer. All right. Okay. Others. I need more responses. Last question for the day. This is the last question for the day. So I want more responses, more enthusiasm. Okay, so 2 and 5, they are emerging as the choices. Right. First of all, who are these they? These they are people who study children's language. So happy that nobody has said 1, right? So people who study children's language spend a lot of time watching how babies react to the speech they hear around them. So what is their purpose? They want to understand how babies react to the speech that they hear around them, right? So how do they study this? Okay, how do they watch this? They make films of adults and babies interacting and examine them very carefully to see whether the babies show any signs of understanding what the adults say. Basically, see, they are studying it. They're, anybody who is studying something is trying to find something out, isn't it? If you are, I mean, if let's say you are researching on something, you are trying to find something there, right? There is a result that you want to arrive at. So that's why they are examining. In the process of studying this, they are examining through these videos. And what are they trying to test? Whether the babies show any signs of understanding what the adults say. Now see, signs, any signs. Okay, and now see the signs. Sometimes the signs are very subtle. Sometimes the signs are very subtle. Slight movements of the baby's eyes or the head or the hands. Okay, you would never notice them. What does this them refer to? These signs. You would never, because they're very subtle. So 4 and 5 forms a very strong pair. Why did you think that 5 is the odd sentence out? You would never notice them if you were just sitting with the child. But by watching a recording over and over, you can spot them. Now, see, this is again related because they are making films here. So, in fact, 2 and 5 are related to each other. Neither of them is the odd one out. It is 3 that is the odd one out. Okay? 3. Because they don't believe this already. They are trying to test this. They are trying to find this out whether babies begin to react to language from the moment they are born or not. यही तो find out करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. They don't already believe this. Okay? So, this is the odd sentence out. This does not belong to the paragraph. Right? So, again, don't worry. This was probably your first time attempting many of these questions, right? And this, as I said, there is a process to it. The more questions you solve, the more things that I've told you you keep in your mind, the better you'll get at these questions. Okay. Now, for CMAT, Siddhant, we are starting with the last lap to CMAT. Okay. See this. We're starting with the last lap to CMAT. from 14th March at 7 p.m. every day. There we'll have a complete revision of all the areas, right? So you need not worry about that. And from your end, of course, I always tell you, you have to solve past year papers, you have to take mock tests. That will be the preparation from your end. Identify your weak areas. So, for instance, if my weak area is vocabulary, I would, let's say, go for a Barron's 800 list. So, identify your weak areas and correct that. Or if you feel that okay, now I probably cannot do that, okay, the exam is near, the notification is out, April 9 is the date. So if you feel that, in that case, capitalize on your strengths, hone your strengths as much as you can. Okay, also, don't let anything remain a weakness to such an extent that it will prevent you from clearing the cutoff. So don't be very weak in any area. At least try to be average in even in your weak areas. That is how your preparation should go about in the next coming days. Okay, so hope that helps. Brijesh, no, it's not after they are born. It's not after they are born. It's when they hear an adult. See, in 4, related, you are able to get this, that the signs are the ones that they exhibit when they are interacting with an adult, not after they are born. Which books? There are no particular books as such. See, I mean, there is no one. In fact, if for MBA, there are no set books that I can actually recommend to you from where you should study. See, I always tell, okay, for vocabulary, go for this book. So, Word Par Made Easy, Barron's 800 list. For grammar, I tell you, okay, read Ren and Martin. But the point is, you have to see that do you have that kind of time? Because today it's already March 11, okay, and the exam is on April 9. So, do you have that kind of time that you'll be able to go through the books, right? So, rather, why not focus on the past year papers, the mocks, and your becoming average at your weaknesses, capitalizing on your strength, right? From my end, if you still want recommendations, so I have just told you Ren and Martin, Word Par Made Easy. For RCs, you don't really need any special preparation. If you have prepared for CAT, that is enough. Okay, the RCs in CMAT are of a much lower level, difficulty level as compared to, let's say, CAT. You could say that MHCET RC passages, you could also practice them. Those would be of a similar level, and sometimes even SNAP passages, they tend to be of a similar level sometimes. So these are the ones that you could practice. Right? Okay, so this is what we discussed today. I hope it helped you, right? And if you like the session, please press the like button. That will help me a lot. It actually gives me feedback of how I'm teaching, right? And yes, this is the CAT PAVAT program. I think by now all of you know about this. This is our ongoing batch, right, for CAT 2022. For GK Siddhant, Pranav sir has been taking some amazing sessions for CMAT. You just attend those sessions. That would be my recommendation. Okay, so he's been taking quite a few sessions. In fact, some of the TISNET GK sessions could also benefit you because GK is GK at the end of the day, isn't it? So attend those sessions. Right. And yes, do join our Telegram channel in case you wish to ask any queries later on, right? In case you don't want to miss various updates from us, you can join our Insta handle as well. Okay, I'll see you next time in this series, right? So next Friday would be an off, right? Because it's holy. I'll see you the Friday after that now with another topic in the VARC Score Booster series. All right. So bye, welcome, see you next time.